All right, for this example, example 1, I'm going to show you how to find slope, midpoint, and distance using 2 points on a segment. I already went ahead and plotted my 2 points. Notice how on this example I only connected the points. I did not extend the line because it is not a line. It tells you right here the segment with endpoints A and B. That means that it has to stop at those 2 points. So I'm going to find the slope, but now using the slope formula, then I'm going to find the midpoint and then the length, the distance. So for slope, I have the 3 formulas up here, but I wrote down the formula that I need for each of those. For slope, I'm using changing y over changing x, which is the same thing that we did with the slope from the graphs. The rise is when I'm moving up and down, so that's changing y. Run is when I'm moving side to side, so that's changing x. So same thing with the formula. Now I'm just using points. I'm not using the graph. All right, so to find slope, I'm going to plug in my numbers into these letters, and the first thing you have to do is you have to label your points. First point is x1, y1, -3 is x, -5 is y. And then the second point is going to be x2, y2 because it's the second point. So once you label your points, it becomes easier to know which numbers go into those letters. So I'm going to plug in my numbers. For y2, if you look up here, y2 is right here, it's 4. So I'm going to put in a 4 right here. Then I have minus for my formula. And then I have y1. So again, I'm going to look up my points. y1 is this one, -5. Now on the bottom, I'm going to subtract my x values. x2 is this point, 3. So that goes here. And then x1, which is going to go here, is this one, -3. Notice how I kept my negative or my minus sign from the formula, and I also kept the negative from the number. So just be careful. If you have a negative, don't assume that this can count as a negative. You have to keep both. Now I have to do is subtract. So 4 minus -5, that's gonna give me 9. And 3 minus -3 is gonna give me 6. Almost there. Now I just have to divide. 9 divided by 6, and that's gonna simplify to 3/2. So my slope for this line is 3/2. You can check it by using the method that I showed you on the other example. So remember, slope from a graph is rise over run. So I could check it with that method. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I went up 9. And if you notice, that's the rise, that's the number on top. And then I run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the right. And if you notice, that's the number on the bottom, that's the run. And so when you simplify, you get 3/2. So it's the same thing, but this allows you to find the slope without having to plot your points, without having to look at the graph. For midpoint, we have a different formula where you're supposed to add the x's and then divide by 2 for your x coordinate, and then you add the y's and divide by 2 for your y coordinate. That's going to give me the midpoint of the segment. So again, I'm still working with the same 2 points. I am going to plug in my numbers for x first. So I'm adding the x's. So my x values are -3 and +3. So I have -3 plus 3. Other, I have to add the y's. So my y's are -5 and 4. So -5 plus 4. Gonna add them. -3 plus 3, that's gonna give me 0. negative 5 plus 4. This is going to give me negative 1. And then all I have to do now is divide. So my midpoint is 0 divided by 2 gives me 0. And negative 1 divided by 2 gives me negative 0.5. Could keep it as a fraction, but I'm changing it to a decimal so that I can plot it easier on my graph. So my midpoint is going to be at 0. So here's 0. And then down to 0.5. So here's 0.5. And you can tell that it is exactly halfway between A and B. So it's the midpoint. So that's one way to check that you're correct. You plot it and then it should be in the middle. Alright, the last thing I'm going to show you is how to find distance for those 2 points. There are 2 methods to find distance. You can choose whichever method you prefer. First, I'm going to teach you the distance formula, and then I'm going to show you how to do it with Pythagorean theorem. So here's the distance formula. Same thing as in my other formulas. All I have to do is plug in my numbers for those letters. So I have I'm subtracting my x values, so this is like the change in x. So my x values are x2 is 3 minus x1 negative 3. And then my y values, I'm subtracting y2 minus y1. y2 is 4, y1 is negative 5. So I have, first thing I have to evaluate is whatever's inside the parentheses. So 3 minus negative 3, that's going to give me 6. 4 minus negative 5, that's going to give me 9. And if you notice, those are the same numbers that I have over here. Change in y, change in x, same numbers. 6 squared is 36. That's 6 times 6. And then 9 squared, that's 81. That's 9 times 9. Now I have to add those 2 things inside. So 36 plus 81, that gives me 117. And then for this part, I'm going to let you use a calculator, because later on this year you're going to find out how to simplify radicals. But for now, I'm going to let you use your calculator for the square root. So square root of 117 is 10.816. We're rounding to the nearest hundredth, so that's 10.82. So my distance, or my length, between these 2 points is 10.82. And then the last method to find the length is Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I find that a lot of students think this method is a lot easier, so you get to choose if you like this one or if you like this one, as long as you show me your work. So for this one, you need to create a right triangle, which we already have when we did rice over run. My hypotenuse is always my longest side, is always the segment that you're trying to find the length for. So this is going to be C. The legs of the triangle, which is going to be like your rice and your run, those are going to be A and B, and it doesn't matter which one's which. So I'm going to make this one be A and this is side B. Now all I have to do is plug in the side length for those parts of the triangle into my theorem. So my A is 9. I have 9 squared. My B is 6. And my C, it's what I'm trying to find, so I'm going to keep C. C is the distance I'm trying to find. Now I'm going to square, so 9 squared is 81. 6 squared is 36. There's an addition sign in between, so I add them. 81 plus 36, that's the same thing I had over here. That's 117. And we're trying to get c by itself, so it's kind of like solving an equation. To get rid of that exponent, you have to take the square root, and it cancels out, and you do it to both sides. So now you have the square root of 117 equals c, and we just type that into our calculators. That's 10.82. It's going to give you the distance. So just a different method to find the same thing. You can choose whichever you like better.